We're looking into authenticity and courage, certainly in honor of Ruth Bader Ginsburg. And also, we're going to look into some of what Brene Brown has to say about this as well. Cecilia, Ruth's mother, passed away when she was still in high school. But one of the things that she was noted for is that she introduced her daughter to these women who demonstrated Jewish American female strong women of valor by virtue of their courage and humanity. Emma Lazarus, I actually didn't know the source of a couple of these sayings, but until we are all free, none of us are free. And dare to dream. And when you dream, dream big. So those are two really inspiring sayings, and two of the women that Ruth's mother really encouraged her to pay attention to and to model her life after. And there's this concept of Tikkun Olam, healing the world, which is a core Jewish principle. And it's social justice, it's using your life for good. And Ruth Bader Ginsburg talked about her heritage as a Jew and being a judge really fit together, and that the demand for justice runs through the Jewish history, and how she took pride and strength from that heritage, and that it's not just justice in the sense of the law, it's also justice in the sense of human rights. So she really was a proponent of human rights for everybody. So I'm going to rest here on this slide for a few minutes. There's so many wonderful quotes of hers and pictures of hers. One of the things that's been going on around on Facebook too are some of the laws that she was instrumental in putting through, like women not having to have their husband's signature on a credit card or a loan, Title X, which made women's sports more equal access to that for girls. There was so much legislation where she was really instrumental in applying the law and working for equality. Some of what she said was purely feminist. She has a quote about the Supreme Court. She was asked how many women should be on the Supreme Court, and she said 9. And when she got that shocked look, she said, well, nobody gives it a second thought if it's 9 men. And that, women need to be in the places where these decisions about our lives are being made. She also, in her book, talked about the Supreme Court being a place where there was not a lot of agreement on principles or philosophy, because the jurists had such broad backgrounds, but that there was always respect for each other, and that they were always able to come across their differences in views and be together with each other in a way that was respectful of each other's humanity. And so that one of the quotes that I'm seeing a lot is fight for the things you care about, but do it in a way that will lead others to join you. And I think at the real core of that is really seeing her own humanity and other people's humanity, is that she wasn't dehumanizing people who had a different take on things. What a wonderful quality that is in a human being, but also in someone with so much power. And she was a badass, if you're neutral in situations of injustice, you've chosen to side with the oppressors. And she was certainly not neutral. So let's take a minute here to just kind of settle into our body. Notice what these words have kind of stimulated in you. Take a few breaths. Notice your seat, your feet. And when she was fighting for equality, she also was instrumental in getting men to get survivor benefits after their wives died. and things that were part of that patriarchal "we'll take care of you" women, and really look deeply into these many ways that men and women were not equal. And one of the things she also said was, we can't really call ourselves a just and equal society until men and women share the role of taking care and raising the next generation. So she was a broad thinker, broad-based thinker. And when we look at someone like Ruth Bader Ginsburg, we look at this idea that the government needs to make decisions for women because we're not a full adult and we don't have that capacity. And it's just so clearly ridiculous that that's not the truth. So one of her gifts was that she modeled intelligence and courage, and that her place rightfully was on the Supreme Court, and that being a woman is not in any way an inferior position. So let's let that kind of move a little bit into just the ground of how we're working with this today, and look at a few quotes from Brene Brown about courage. And as you're kind of absorbing her words, if you want to put your hand on your heart, that's always helpful. Courage is a heart word. And she says, love hard and be brave. Vulnerability is not winning or losing, it's having the courage to show up and be seen when we have no control over the outcome. So a lot of her work around shame and vulnerability is around authenticity. Courage starts with showing up and letting ourselves be seen. And then I thought we could sit with these words about we can choose courage or we can choose comfort, but we can't have both, not at the same time. So what does that bring up in you? She's talking about the arena, and she has that beautiful quote from Roosevelt about how we have to show up. We have to get into the arena and be brave. And then we get our asses kicked because there's a lot of people who aren't in the arena that are sitting on the sidelines just being critical, or we might try something and it doesn't work. So there's a cost. And when we have unhealed trauma, the cost can just feel like it's overwhelming, like we can't do that. And one of the things that I find is a helpful approach is to just try to be very practical and present with where we're actually at and what is the actual level of threat in any moment, in any given situation, because our primitive brain, our nervous system runs the show a lot of the time. It's trying to keep us safe. And it often overprotects. As an adult, we can widen our window of tolerance. We can start making choices that are more brave, and we can feel fear and do something anyway. Or we could kind of inhabit our life, which is a huge act of bravery and something that I didn't really do until not that long ago. It's kind of a continuum. I started to many decades ago, but just the idea that I could be present and have some agency. What do I want in my life? How do I want to spend my time? What's important to me? And so many people just kind of don't show up in their lives. And how can we kind of be present and kind with ourselves about wherever we are on that continuum? I don't think anybody shows up 100% of the time, at least not most of us. But where are we on that continuum, and how could we kind of sit with that? So I'll just be quiet for a couple of minutes as you just kind of look at some of these words or tune into what's going on in your body, your breath. As always, if something gets too intense, you can do some tapping on your forehead for a minute. Take your attention into the sound, sensation of the tapping. Stay connected in your body and breath. We might also notice and tune into if there's shame. We might be holding ourselves up to a standard that is really great for one person, but maybe not really applicable for us, or just, we can have a deep regret in our lost time if we had been able to show up earlier for ourselves. Showing up and letting ourselves be seen, part of that is letting ourselves see ourselves and letting ourselves be held and respected and acknowledged for who we are. It's not just about others. And the other thing that we might consider is that this moment is the beginning of the future. So, no matter what happened in our past, we can do something new now if that's what we want. And then make a mental note or make a note of what it is that you're working. Maybe there's something you want to come back to. Let's move into the other part of the inquiry. So, Dan McClintock in the Kilby Inquiries came up with this great structure that I really like. So, if it works for you, you can do it. If you want to modify it, do that. So, he's saying, what if all of our conditioning was in the space on the left side of our body? And then freedom was in the space on the right side of our body. And then in the center of that, we do our inquiry. So, if you look at your conditioning, what are some of the beliefs that you've formed through your own experience? Things that you were told. And it might be things like, woman's place is in the home. It might be things like that. But with trauma, it's often things like, I'm too scared to stand up for what I want. Or what if I get it wrong? I'll be punished. If someone doesn't like me, or if I don't fawn and kind of suck up, then they might hurt me. So, when we've had these kinds of experiences in particular, it really has an impact on how present we are with ourselves and also on how brave we are. How can we be present and courageous? Or is that something that just feels like it's too far out of reach? So, feel into that. If you were to put all of your conditioning around authenticity, courage, bravery over on the left side of your body, so it can be kind of a big murky cloud, or it could be a set of shelves, or however it is that you might imagine that to be, and feel into that. What does it feel like? All of those conditioned beliefs about how you should be in the world, how you should show up. And then, if you were free from all of those beliefs, bring your attention over to the right side, just on the outside of your body on the right. Courage, strength, humanity. You'd be connected with yourself, with other people, and loved. Ruth Bader Ginsburg was loved as well as respected. So, what does it feel like if all of that conditioning on the left was to disappear? Come over onto the right side where it isn't even there. Feel into that. And then let's move into some inquiry, and we'll do this for 5 minutes or so. You could use these sentences, or you could use whatever sentences that you want. So, a couple of them are: what does Ruth Bader Ginsburg inspire in me? As we're looking at her life and the impact of her life. And then, on a more personal, kind of private life level as well, this is a reverse inquiry, which means we say something that we're not absolutely sure is true. And then we look to see what's our response. So we're kind of calling out whatever's resisting that. I can afford to be courageous, authentic, and connected in my humanity, like Ruth Bader Ginsburg. And really feel free to modify this so that it feels like something that you could spend a bit of time with. And as you're doing the inquiry, you might look at the words, put them up into a frame on the wall on the other side of the room or in your mind's eye. Don't forget you can do tapping. Notice the energy in your body. Put some space around the energy. Stay really present in this moment as you're doing the inquiry. I can afford to be courageous, authentic, and connected in my humanity. Stay really present, your body, your breath, and keep your eye open for shame. If you feel yourself kind of just slump over or eyes down or going into a shame posture, change your posture, sit up, a couple of deep breaths. Just come back to the inquiry. Sometimes the inquiry will bring up proof of why you can't afford that. And then you could look at that, bring that up individually, one thing at a time. "Oh, I'm not smart enough. I'm too old, whatever it might be. We're not trying to figure it out in our head. We're just really listening in our body and then following that. And if you're imagining yourself with some of those qualities of courage and strength and authenticity, visualize that in a really vivid way. Like bring to mind something that you could be doing in a few days or months or whenever that might be. And feel that in your system. What are the colors? What are you seeing? How are you standing? What's going on in your body? Really bring all your senses into that and let yourself kind of live that in a very powerful way. And if you're caught in a shame storm or there's core deficiency beliefs, can you be kind with yourself right now? Stay connected. Notice your body breath. Notice your heart. Could you be kind and offer yourself some comfort that that's what's going on right now? If the inner critic is kind of giving you a hard time, ask it to be quiet or ask it why. Why does it need to be here? What's going on that maybe you need to know? And then you could have a look at it. Well, actually, that's not true. I don't need to listen to that. It'll take about another minute or so. A lot of these inquiries really just bring up more for us to inquire into. So make a note, a mental note, or a note on something if there's something that you want to follow up with. Notice how your body feels. Come back into your breath. Notice your feet, your seat. What's going on as we start to open our eyes, look around.